Hi there, and thank you for joining Nathan and myself in our web series. Today is Good Friday, so we're thinking about what's so good about Good Friday and what is Jesus' death all about. But first, a few weeks ago, Nathan sent me a challenge which you may remember broke my phone, and I've just had the bill in for that. So I've set him the challenge of repaying me back my money.
So, Jez got the bill back for his phone, and apparently I owe him £300. The problem is I don't have that money, so I'm going to need to get it somewhere, otherwise I'm in his debt. So, I thought of some way of getting rich quick. I was looking up, and there's a world record for catching marshmallows in your mouth, and it was 53 within a minute. So I think I can beat that, and then I'll be able to make lots of money and pay Jez back. So, I've got my phone here. I'm just going to put the timer on, and here we go. 3, 2, 1, go.
Waste of marshmallows. You win.
So, I think I caught about 4 in the end, maybe 5. I don't know, but never mind. Sorry, Jez, I still owe you.
See, when Nathan broke my phone, justice dictates that he needs to repay me back. He needs to pay me back what I'm owed. And in the same way, whenever we wrong God, there's a sense in which we owe him something. And there's a sense in which we are in debt to God. Now, Nathan set himself a task which he was never going to be able to complete. And in a similar way, us trying to pay that debt back to God is impossible. There is not enough that we could possibly do to repay God for the times we have wronged him. See, here's the thing. Even though we're all so overwhelmingly in debt to God that we couldn't possibly begin to repay him back, he still loves us. And he still reaches out to us. And because of that, he had to find an innovative way to repay that debt for us. And that was settled on Good Friday. So we're going to go over to our news correspondents who are going to tell us more about what happened.
Breaking news. The man who rode into Jerusalem on a donkey only days ago has been tried and executed as a criminal. We go over to our reporter in the field who is interviewing some eyewitnesses to the event. Over to you, Jeff.
Thanks, Ethan. Jeff here. And I'm here in Jerusalem with some of the Pharisees who were key in bringing this criminal to justice. So, what happened here?
Oh, well, we've been after this guy Jesus for years. He's been rallying up crowds wherever he went, and worst of all, he's been blaspheming. He's been claiming to be the Son of God, even claiming he could forgive people's sins. Well, we the teachers of the law had to do something about it.
So, what is so bad about what he was saying? Wasn't he just saying to love each other?
Well, I mean, it was more the principle of it, to be honest with you. I mean, he was undermining what we were saying. Who is he to be doing that? So we had to get rid of him, for the good of the people, and for the good of God. So we devised a plan. We got a man inside Jesus in a circle, that Judas of Iscariot bloke, and he was able to give Jesus into our hands. So what we did then was we stirred up the crowd, the same crowd that celebrated Jesus a week earlier in his triumphal entry into Jerusalem. And we got them to chant, "Crucify, crucify." And there we have it. He's now dead, and that's the last we'll hear of him. Today's been a great victory.
Well, thank you for sparing the time to speak with us today. And with that, it's now back to the studio.
There we have it. It would seem the Jewish leaders are very happy with today's outcome. We now go over to Colin, who is going to interview one of the Roman centurions who was there at the cross. Over to you, Colin.
Thank you, Ethan. Colin here, and I'm here with Cornelius, who has witnessed many crucifixions. But there is something different about this one, wouldn't you say?
Oh, there was something different about that Jesus bloke. That was different from all the other crucifixions I've seen. Even to his very last breath, he was talking about forgiveness, paradise, and something being finished.
Well, and who was he saying these things to?
Well, the paradise part he was saying to the criminal next to him. He said, "Truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise." He was inviting the criminal into his kingdom. Even to the very end, he was all about forgiveness. As he said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." He was talking to his Father in heaven. He was asking them to forgive us. Even me.
Whoa. So what does this mean for you, do you think?
Well, surely this man was the Son of God.
Well, thank you, Cornelius. And with that, it's back to you in the studio.
Thank you. We have two very different opinions on the death of Jesus. Was it a day of great victory, or was he indeed the Son of God? Perhaps in their own ways, they're both right. And now, over to the weather. So, was Good Friday a day of great victory, or was Jesus the Son of God? Well, actually, do you know what? I think it was both. Now, it may not be the day of great victory in the way the Pharisees thought. They thought that they had gotten rid of the man that had been causing them all these problems. But actually, the victory comes in Jesus' death. He came and he died so that he could beat sin and death. And the only reason he could do this was because he was the Son of God. In dying on the cross, he bridged that gap between us and God. We can now know God as a great Father and friend. And it's all because of what Jesus did. In dying, he was able to take that sin that we have done onto himself and take the punishment that we deserve so that we can now know God the Father. So today, of course, we're thinking about the times when we do wrong. So I thought of a prayer activity we could do. Firstly, you're going to need just a few little pieces of paper like this, okay? And on each one, maybe write something that you have done wrong. So for me, maybe it's that I've told a lie. So on my piece of paper, I'm going to write that I told a lie. And maybe you could do this a few times and write different things on each piece of paper. And then I want you to screw it into a ball. And each one, I've got a few extras here that I've done earlier. And get your recycling bin. So there's mine just there. And think about the things you've done wrong and give them to God. And as you do, you can try throwing them into the bucket and apologising. So I might have to do this a few times. So here we go. Dear God, I'm sorry that I tell lies. Amen. And that one went in. And then you can keep throwing the others as well and seeing how you do, but also just be praying and asking for that forgiveness as if you're giving your sins away and God is forgiving them.
So, Jez, would you help a friend in need?
I like to think so, yeah. I think I would, when I see a friend and I want to help them. It's kind of that natural impulse, isn't it? When you love someone, you go, I'm going to help that person.
Yeah. All right, well let's take it a step further. Would you help a stranger in need?
I'd love to stand here and go, yes, always, I am perfect and I help every single person in need that I have ever seen ever. But the reality of the situation is that I can begin to count how many people I've walked past in the street, how many people I haven't helped who I should have, and I'm consistently humbled by that, by how it just shows how bad a person I am, how far I still have to go. But I try and help when I can. I try and help occasionally. I'll help here and there, but not as much as I should.
Yeah.
We have a culture in England where it's very much of you help the people you know, you help the people you love, but when it's a stranger, or you don't help strangers, you don't approach a stranger, you don't really talk to strangers. You try and avoid eye contact with strangers if you can. And it's interesting because I've been to other countries, and when I was travelling I was in Liechtenstein, and Liechtenstein is amazing, beautiful country, but the people there are so nice.
It's genuinely the nicest people in the world. I mean, I was there hiking. The idea was I was hiking from the south to the north, and I go over the mountain range. And on my first, it took me 2 days. On the first day, I had someone shout at me in German, and I thought, oh goodness, this someone's being rude to me or what have you. And I just put my head down and kept on walking. On the second day, someone approached me and started speaking German, and I don't speak much German, so I went, mein Deutsch ist nicht so gut, which means my German is not so good. And thankfully he spoke a bit of English, and he just wanted to help. And he was looking at my map, he was helping me with directions, which way to go, and then a couple of 100 yards up the road, someone else stopped and started talking to me and started helping me again. And they have this weird culture there, where they would just, people would just stop you and just ask, can I help you?
Wow.
There was one guy who literally got out, stopped his car, got out, and where are you going? Can I give you a lift? Which direction can I give you directions? One person shouted at me from their window. Genuinely, they've done 6 or 7 times. They have a culture there of, I see a stranger, he looks slightly lost or perplexed, or he's looking at a map, I should go help him. And it would be so much better if we had that culture here.
Yeah, just helping each other would be good. Yeah, but just remember, children don't talk to strangers.
No, that's good advice.
So let's take it a step even further. Would you help an enemy in need?
Again, I'd love to say yes, but I'm not the best person in the world. And if I don't always help the strangers, how can I possibly begin to say I'd help my enemy? I mean, I don't really have enemies so much in the sense that some people have enemies. Kind of the enemies that I have are mostly some hypothetical people across the world, somewhere halfway across the world who I've never met or will almost certainly never will meet or be affected by us, which is very weird. But we do have people who we don't like, we don't get on with, and I'd like to say I'd help them if they're in need, but that would be hard. I can't begin to pretend that'd be easy.
And so of course, Jesus, when he was on earth, he had friends, he had strangers, he had enemies, and yet when he died on Good Friday, he died for all of them. And it's a weird concept that we call it Good Friday. Jesus dies on a cross, which is one of the worst ways of death and torture. So my final question to you is, what makes Good Friday good for you?
I think that we should have mixed feelings about Good Friday. I don't think it should just be purely good. There is a harrowing and sorrowful side to it, where we should be so sad by the fact that Jesus had to die, and that he had to be tortured and die in the most horrific, painful way. We should look at that and be horrified. At the same time, he died for us. The fact that I'm a not good enough person means that on my own merit, I cannot get into heaven. I deserve death. And Jesus, he took that and he paid it for me. And not just for me, he paid it for everyone, for his enemies. He paid it for the people who were there mocking him and who were shouting abuse at him. He was there paying that price for them. It is a horrible image, but at the same time it's beautiful. It's beautiful because it's the ultimate expression of love. It's the expression of, even though I've turned my back on God and I've done awful things, I've done wrong things, I've thought awful things, God sees that and he still reached out to me. And he said, I love you this much.
Wow.
And he died for us. And how amazing is that?
Not
just good, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's true. We'll name it Awesome Friday from now on.
I love it.
So that probably won't work. So we'll stick with Good Friday. But let's just pray. God, you are such a good and awesome God, that you would send your Son down to earth to be mocked, to be beaten, and to die because you love us. And Lord, thank you that even if we were the only people on earth, you still would have done it for us. Lord, we thank you. And Lord, we pray that we can be your friends, that we can know you and love you and see what an amazing God you are. Amen.
Amen.